Aaron's taking care of it.
Oh, it is, okay, I'm sorry. There you go. Jeopardy music would be right, nice right now. Jeopardy music. Dun, dun.
We can do it. Have the capability.
All right, I got 7. Is everybody ready?
Sure. Let's do it.
I'd like to call the Oglesby City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Here.
Udis.
Here.
McDermott.
Here.
Stefani.
Here.
Kern.
Here. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Number 4, public comment on agenda items only. Seeing that there are none, we'll move on to number 5. Approve minutes from the January 15th and the January 24, 2023 City Council. I think it's supposed to say 2024, actually.
January 18th, 2024.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, we have the wrong year on it, though. I do have one concern. One of the last meeting we had, there is something that's missing. We had a public comment, gentleman come up with public comments and made a public apology, and that is missing from the minutes. I'd like to make a recommendation that we add that in there to the minutes. Anybody have a concern, question over that, or anything?
Is this 118 or 124 that we're talking here?
Should be 124. I think the minutes are in this one, though. Under 5A.
What day was that exactly?
Under public comment. About halfway down.
So what is it that you're looking at in here?
Well, it talks about a request that he had, but he actually talked for about 3 minutes over making a public apology of something he did in 2015 to the city, and I was hoping we'd add that to the minutes.
I'll defer to the clerk on this one. Do you feel that there's something that we need to add in here, or do you feel like there's a problem adding something in?
Do I have a problem?
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Do I have a problem putting it in? No, obviously, if the council instructs me to do that. I talked to Mayor Kern today about why I didn't initially include it. I didn't think that it was pertinent to what the request was. And I'm not sure what's the ultimate goal is to
Okay.
to make note that someone admitted that they did something.
Yeah, I have no problem with it as long as we're not putting in quotes. That's one thing that we agreed to, and it's one thing during the IML mediation that we had talked about, that when we start getting into quotes, now we're driving a narrative. So I have no problem with doing it. I think it's something we should come back and approve at the next meeting so that everybody's
Okay.
comfortable
Right.
with the language that's put in there.
Let's go.
And I
ahead.
have full confidence that the clerk can do that and do it in such a way that we're not trying to portray a narrative that's gonna benefit one person or another.
I
Okay.
believe we were instructed by the IML to only not pass something if there was false information. At this point, I question the intent, and I would like to allow that our clerk do her job as we were instructed to do.
Well, you have 8 lines of text in here
I
about what,
don't know why we're questioning the intent.
because when someone came up to that podium right there and made a public apology about something.
If she's done her due diligence and she's given a brief summary of the actions taken that night, I believe she's done her job.
That's not in there.
Is it apparent to the city business? Should we put it on there? I mean,
I think it is. They talked about how taxpayer dollars were wasted and all kinds of things like that. I think it's important.
We could also throw in another situation, the taxpayers' dollars were also utilized, so I think we should probably pass the minutes, my opinion.
What do we want to do? Table those or pass them? Or
I make a
modify 'em?
motion that we pass the minutes from January 15th and January 24th.
Is there a second? Motion dies due to lack
I'll
of a
second.
second.
I'll
We
second
should get a
that.
time limit on this, and have it on 3 times. There should be a time limit on this. Okay, there's a motion and a second on the table, on the floor. Roll call, please.
Baldridge,
Aye.
Udis,
Abstain.
McDermott,
Aye.
Stefani,
Aye.
Curran.
No. Okay, number 6, approve minutes from the January 15th and January 24 executive session. I have another concern with this. There's something that's been excluded from the executive session minutes as well. To talk about that, though, I think we got to do that in the executive session later in the thing. You guys want to talk about that in executive session later on as we go
I
there?
think we
We
could
should
probably move,
probably,
we
do
could
an
probably move
executive
past this
session.
for right now and then revisit it.
Do you want to just approve the January 15th ones and table the 24th until later?
I think that would be appropriate.
Could I get a motion for that?
I'll make a motion that we approve the January 15th, 2024 executive session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge,
Aye.
Udis. McDermott,
Aye.
Stefani,
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. Number 7, approve bills as presented for payment in the amount of $369,649.21. If there's no changes or additions, if I can get a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge,
Aye.
Udis. McDermott,
Aye.
Stefani,
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. Number 8, approve January 19th and February 2nd, 2024 payrolls in the amount of $116,184.61 and $88,441.85 respectively. If there's no additions, questions, concerns, if I can get a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the payroll.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge,
Aye.
Udis. McDermott,
Aye.
Stefani,
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. Number 9, presentation by Al Stout, plumbing inspector on sewer ejector pits. Mr. Stout? Did you want to
I
do the
got
IMA
it.
one
No,
first?
I can take care of the big screen. That's no
Okay,
problem.
thank you. There'd be a button on there. Well, the people can't, at home
Yeah,
can't
the
hear
people
that.
at home, it'll help them, Al.
Okay, hi. My name is Alan Stout, and I've been asked to come here tonight to explain an ejector pump program that I'm from Ottawa, so this is what we use over in Ottawa. Does everybody have a copy of this?
Yeah.
You guys
And I got it. Al, just tell me where you want me to go on the big screen with it, what page, and I'll go along with you. You can talk and,
Well, not that page.
I'll just keep scrolling.
There you go.
Okay.
That one there. Yeah, so over in Ottawa, they implemented this program because they were having a lot of problems with the sewers backing up in people's houses. And they come up with a solution that they wanted them to put ejector pumps in there. Purpose of the ejector pump is to pretty much intercepts it before it goes out to the city sewer and acts as a backflow preventer. There is a check valve on the pump, so it doesn't allow it to come back in. There's a diagram in there. Yes,
Is that what we're looking for, Al?
yes.
Okay.
So the purpose of the ejector pump, anything below grade would go into the ejector pump and then is lifted up into the city sewer.
basically,
At
guys.
this point, I would open it up for any questions.
Okay, basically what this is, with the ordinance that we have on the sewer valve, okay? This is another option. The price wise, it is a little more expensive, but it's comparable. I mean, you're looking at how much, about five compared?
Obviously, that's gonna differ between contractors, but I would have to say right around 5,000.
Where normally the other valve is like 4,000. And
What I think is the most interesting thing is, and I kind of live by the mantra of maybe everything happens for a reason, because I know we were looking to kind of almost approve the check valve ordinance from before. Maybe you could explain a little bit, because I know we based that on the idea that we're trying to help out residents and stuff like that, but then I appreciate that, brought this to our attention, that there's been problems with just check valves, just the pure check valve program. I was hoping maybe you could explain that a little bit of why we're looking at this instead.
Okay, yeah, the check valve, putting that in, a check valve has to be inspected periodically because it's a mechanical device and it can fail. Something could get lodged underneath it and prevent it from closing when needed. And then, it's basically just useless.
So what I thought about that is, our residents, obviously, they had a problem, and they want to be able to solve a solution. So obviously, they put in this check valve thing, it gets buried under the ground, and chances are they're not going to do maintenance on it or check it or something like that. And then they end up having a problem later on that they thought they were protected from. That's what I thought was the most interesting thing about that. In this process here, this isn't just, if I'm correct, what we were talking about earlier is, this isn't just for to be able to help people out with some type of like a grant to be able to pay for part of it that have had problems. This is also in your guys' building code for any future buildings being built too. Is that correct?
Yes, it's in our code that, for new construction, any plumbing that is done below the floor doesn't go out by gravity, it gets lifted into the sewer.
That's what I thought was interesting. Not only possibly looking at this in replacement of our check valve program, but if we should be considering this possibly for,
the proposal for going forward with
Going forward.
building permits and
I
everything.
do have a few things that I'm gonna be sending.
That's a sump pit.
It just doesn't have, any-
That's just for groundwater. He's gotta roll it.
This one?
If-
You gotta roll it up a little bit.
well, that's your
Can
standard
you roll
sump.
that
You
up?
gotta roll that up a
Yep.
little
That's the
bit.
standard sump.
There you go.
Seepage and stormwater only, okay. I just wondered what that said, Al. I couldn't figure out what the two lines were.
Okay.
And I think one of the things we talked about is, any of the above, like the second floor, or anything like that, that's not in the basement, it would still use regular gravity flow out. So we're talking just for anything at the ground level there, like in the basement, for example. And I think you said that one of the advantages is because if the check valve breaks on the outside of the house, it's very hard to know that that's not functioning, but you'll know if there's a problem with anything inside your house. Is that one of the things that's
Correct,
kind of
yes.
correct? And I know we talked about a couple things. They said there was a couple that you had to install that were very challenging because there wasn't space in their basement that might have had to go outside, but for the most part, they could be installed in people's basements.
Correct. Yeah, there's been cases to where it's just been not feasible at all to put it inside someone's house. So what I come up with is putting a lift station outside, either in their backyard or front yard, wherever the sewer is.
And from a maintenance standpoint, can you talk about how it's advantageous to have this versus the check valve, where replacing an ejector pump would be a lot less time consuming for the contractor as opposed to having to dig out the yard or trying to have to access a backflow?
Well,
Or a check valve?
The check valves that you can put in, you can either put it in outside the house and then you add a riser to
Mhm.
it that you can access it,
Mm-hmm.
or you can put it inside the house. Jackhammer the concrete up and put it right there as well.
Okay. I do think for new construction, this is something that we should probably send to the planning commission and, get it in our land development code, because it definitely is something that is of It's a benefit when you're building a house, and if you're talking about building a $300,000-$400,000 house to spend $5,000 for peace of mind like that,
Yeah.
it's probably money well spent.
Well, you would think that, the insurance and everything else would help.
Sure.
Property value, their insurance is, would probably be a little bit cheaper because they have this safety.
Public comments will be later in the opportunity.
I think that, it'll help
Yeah.
all the way around.
Okay.
And we probably should take it to the planning board.
No, I appreciate bringing this up because it's a lot better than obviously if we were going to
Thank
approve
you, Al.
something else to give a benefit and it could have had problems. I like this as an option. I really appreciate it. So I don't know what we go from here. I know it's not, it was just presentation time, but I think maybe next meeting, if we want to put some recommendations for either changing our like incentive program to something like this, and then maybe even possibly setting it off to building code or investigation on that. Sound good?
I think that sounds fantastic.
That sounds like the way to go.
Anybody else have any questions for Al? Sir, I thank you very much.
Thanks,
If
Al.
there is anybody that has a question from the audience, would you be opposed to taking a question from the audience if they had anything?
No, I'm not opposed.
Does anybody have a question from the audience since Al's up here right now?
Yeah, Al, when these subdivisions were put in, if they would've went with a bigger diameter sewer line, we probably wouldn't be going through this right now, would we? If you had like a 8 or 10 inch line in there, moving that sewer stuff down, you ain't gonna go through what they're going through right now. They've had a lot of trouble here with the stations and everything else, and I think it was a lot of the plans of big subdivisions to go as cheap as you can, go as small as you can.
Well, as far as going as cheap and as small as you can, I can't speak on that because I'm sure they were engineered properly. You know, a lot of times where the problem stems from is if it is a combined sewer. When I say combined sewer, I mean sanitary and storm. Okay, that is the biggest thing of what over in Ottawa I know we were trying to get away from. It's very expensive to go through the fact that they have to separate them, and it's quite a process. Separate them? Yeah, yeah, so that's gonna be a huge expense. So, right now, I wouldn't call this a Band-Aid or anything, but I would consider it a really good fix.
All right. Well, thank you so very much, Al. I really appreciate that. It's
Thank you.
very
Thanks,
kind.
Al.
I really appreciate
Thank
bringing
you.
this to our attention. All right.
Appreciate it.
Number 10, IMEA Solar Farm presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council. My name is Kevin Gaten. I'm the president and CEO of the Illinois Municipal Electric Agency. You see the blue sheet in the back of your board. Each of you should have a handout. Tonight, I've got with me a couple of gentlemen that are gonna lead things off. I'll wrap things up, answering questions you've got about where we're at on our solar project we're developing here in town. We're working on this in a couple of other communities. Again, my name is Kevin Gaten. Right behind me is our Vice President of Member Services, Mike Jenin. And then with him is Sean McCarthy. Sean is our Energy Services representative. He spent 10 years in our operations center, and his 10-year sentence in Energy Services has now come up. And so now he's going back into our electric operations department as our manager of electric operations. Sean's done a great job for us and welcoming him back into that. So we're going to talk a little bit about where we're at on our solar project. We're asked to come here and give you some details about where we're at, what's going on with the project, what are your responsibilities, what are our responsibilities. We've got some narrative here. Hopefully we can get a little dialogue here and then answering questions at the tail end. So I'll turn it over to Mike.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mike Jenna. I've been working with the IMEA since 1995. First account I worked with, I do member services, key accounts, was with Oglesby. And I've seen a lot of stuff happen here. The town's really grown. I'm going to kind of go in the background of what the IMEA is, because I know a lot of you are not really familiar with us. But back in the 1980s, the municipals were under a lot of pressure because a lot of the big investor-owned utilities were building nuclear power plants, and they had massive overruns for quite a few of them, and they were trying to pass the cost off on the municipals. So the municipals got together in the state and received the legislative power through laws to come together through what they call joint action. and that authorized the towns that have municipal electric utilities to issue bonds, do long-term power contracts, build power plants, and do power supply for long-term. So you guys, we started this agency, got permission in May of 1984, and Oglesby joined in 1986. You've been a key player. One of the first things they wanted to do was to do long-term power supplies and issue bonds. So in 1991, they bought a stake in the Trimble County Power Plant, which is in Trimble County, Kentucky. The project almost didn't go, but they needed a certain threshold to buy into this, and Oglesby was the one that put us over the top. So you guys got us going, and you're the reason why we're heading into the power supply industry. If you look at the map, we serve big towns, small towns, poor towns, rich towns. We've got 32 members. It's worked really well. Our members are like on our city council. Each town gets one board member, and they set our policy. For you, it's worked out, we feel, very advantageous. We've gone into long-term power supply agreements, and we bought assets. It's helped us to keep our rates stable and predictable, and we've been below market for a long time. And because we own power plants, we can generate with that